Good evening and welcome to the San Bruno City Council meeting of January 24th, 2017. I'd like to thank the Garden Club for the flowers they always provide for our meetings. Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
Councilmember Rico Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Lonnie Medina. Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here. Carrie Burns, lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We don't have any specific announcements this evening, but we do have a presentation. We're going to receive a presentation regarding the city's coordination with Life Moves to address the homeless issues in San Bruno, and I'd like to have Chief Ed Barberini start it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Like most cities in the San Francisco Bay Area, San Bruno continually faces challenges associated with homelessness. While homelessness is not primarily a law enforcement issue, police officers, due to the nature of their work, are regularly required to interact with our transient population. There are many complex and evolving factors that contribute to homelessness, including substance abuse and mental health challenges. The police department recognizes that this is not an issue that can be addressed via any type of enforcement action. We are not able to simply arrest our way out of this problem. In fact, homelessness may be an issue that is not able to be solved completely in the short term. Realizing our own limitation, the police department has looked for assistance in addressing this important issue. We were fortunate to become involved with an organization called Life Moves, formerly known as the Envision Network. Life Moves supports a homeless outreach worker team that assists local entities in reaching out to transient populations and coordinating housing services. Funded mostly via Measure A funds, this program is designed to partner homeless outreach workers with city staff. In our case, a homeless outreach worker is partnered with the Police Department Support Services Officer, Sherry Campbell. And Sherry and her counterpart are here tonight and are available to address any questions should the council have those. These individuals take direction and report back to a liaison group that includes 2 members of our city council, members of the Chamber of Commerce and the business community, and other city department heads. It's my pleasure now to introduce Mark Sabin, a senior director with Life Moves, to tell you more about this program and their work in San Bruno.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate being invited to talk a little bit about our homeless outreach team. Again, my name is Mark Sabin, and I'm with Life Moves, formerly Envision Shelter Network. And Life Moves, for those of you who aren't familiar, we have 18 shelters that stretch from Daly City down into the South Bay. That's if you're to divide Life Moves in half, we have 2 components. One is the shelter-based services, where we provide comprehensive services to individuals and families in the shelters. It's not a traditional type of shelter program. It's one where we bring folks in, whether they're single adults or families, and we work with them in a comprehensive fashion and really address the issues, the financial issues, substance abuse issues, educational issues, mental health issues, to really work with folks over a 4-month or 5-month period to work towards what is Life Moves' ultimate goal for both the folks in their shelters and outreach, which I'll get to in a minute, is to return people to sustainable housing. That is, if you were to dial our entire mission statement down to that one sentence, it's about returning people to sustainable housing. The component that I'm here to talk about today is our homeless outreach team. And I have a couple members here with us today, Joaquin and Nilde, who are responsible for this region for outreach. And what our outreach team does, it's not really traditional outreach. Sometimes you can think outreach is just going out and maybe providing folks with something nourishing to eat or a pair of socks. We do that, but because this outreach team is part of Life Moves, it is part of our mission, which is to return people to sustainable housing. So the outreach team's ultimate goal is to work with folks at a variety of levels to develop housing plans with them. And while we're on the streets with folks, we will work with folks at any level. And it takes a significant amount of time for some folks to develop a relationship with individuals. We've had people that we've been working with. The team has been in effect for about 8 years now. And we've had folks on the street that we've been working with for about 8 years. And then we finally get them to work on their housing plan, get a housing voucher, and actually get people housed. We've had, just in the past 4 months, we've housed approximately 40 people directly from the streets into permanent supportive housing with the voucher-based systems that are available to folks in San Mateo County. And that takes a lot of effort. So what the outreach team does, it develops relationships with folks and works with them to get the IDs, healthcare issues, mental health issues, whatever it is, to develop the relationship to get the folks to go through that process to work on getting a housing voucher to get them housed. And it takes, like I said, a substantial amount of time. What we're able to do is we have access to, and I have to be careful how I say this, there's a limited number of shelter beds in San Mateo County for folks that are on the street. But we have the relationships with Safe Harbor and our own shelter system that will work with folks, and as they're ready, we'll do our best to get them into a shelter bed and to work. It's easier to work with them once they get into a shelter bed to start working on the process to get them into the housing voucher system. And we also work with the folks, not just on the streets, in the downtown areas, throughout the county. We also reach out into what is known as encampments. And the encampments are locations where homeless folks actually set up communities. And sometimes it can be small, sometimes it's a couple of tents or a couple of structures, and sometimes they can get quite large. In San Mateo County, these encampments don't get that big, which is very fortunate. I know in Santa Clara County, some of you may have heard of a place called the Jungle, which became really something to contend with. And so we actually go into the encampments and work with folks and, again, develop the relationships and meet people in the communities. And it's all about developing rapport with the folks on the street. Because without that relationship, we really can't get anywhere. One of the elements that we've found that's really successful is we have a partnership with the San Mateo Medical Center, and they have a team called the Street Medicine Team. And we partner with them, the outreach team and a couple other folks, that we go out into different areas across San Mateo County, and we're actually bringing health care to the streets to folks. And what this does, and this is one of the reasons why we've had such a great deal of success lately with getting folks housed, is we're starting to take care of one of the primary issues for folks that are on the street, and all of us, is our health care. And once we are able to address the multitude of issues that folks have, what health issues they have on the street, that develops that trust. And this has really kind of been a catalyst to having a great deal of success. Our approach is we develop the relationships with the folks, and on a monthly basis, we have 6 different meetings on a monthly basis. They're called multidisciplinary team meetings. And what these meetings are is each of my outreach workers, and we have a team of 6, leads these meetings on a monthly basis, and it's around a table with a group of community providers, law enforcement, folks from behavioral health and recovery services, the core agencies, a variety of community-based organizations where we will have a list of folks that we're actively working on. And the goal of these meetings is we'll go through whoever's on that list that we're working with intensively and identify the issues to work collaboratively, to troubleshoot, to keep that person moving forward. And on any given time, one person on the list might be, hey, have we seen them so we can get them their ID, because that's a big deal to get the housing vouchers, health care, or whatever the issue is. And this is a process where we're actively, to use kind of a comparison, we're kicking the ball forward. So we have folks, and we're always working on them. So that's how we're a little bit different than some outreach you may have some experience with or have heard about, where we're not just out on the street and just talking to them. We're actually doing something. So if you kind of split our population in two, we have the folks that are on these lists where we're doing the intensive case management, and we also have folks that we're just working with that really aren't that interested in doing anything, but we never give up. That's the power of what we do. We never give up on folks. We've had folks that get away from us in different ways, but we keep going back, and the team that we have, like I said, we have 6 folks, are some of the hardest working folks, and it's a very difficult job to do out there in the field, especially when the weather turns this way. But we're out there every single day, developing the relationships, I can't stress enough how important our relationship is with the police departments. That's what makes this work. And I'll close on this. The relationship with law enforcement works because the HOT team and law enforcement are in constant communication. So when law enforcement's out there on the street and working with individuals who may be a little bit troublesome, law enforcement is aware what we're doing because we let them know what we're doing. So we really can't the folks on the street really can't run any circles around us because we're in cahoots, so to speak. And it's really effective. And sometimes it's a kind of a carrot and stick model. So this would not work without the partnership with the police departments. That we're developing great relationships here in San Bruno and San Mateo and Redwood City, South San Francisco, Redwood City. We have some amazing partnerships with law enforcement. So I could go on forever about the outreach team and how proud we are of the work that we do. But I really want to take this time and let you ask any questions that you might have. If there's anything specific that you want to know about the team, I brought the team because I know very little, so they can actually answer the questions. But I really appreciate this opportunity. It means a lot to us.
Good, thank you. Any questions for Mark? Rico? Oh, Ken?
Yeah, I'd like the team to just give us an example of what one of your success stories with a homeless individual.
One of our success stories is
Come right to the mic, please.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you, thank you.
Hi, my name is Joaquin. I'm part of the outreach team, and my region is Region 4. It includes South San Francisco and San Bruno, along with the airport and Burlingame. So a success story was we had a homeless individual. She was living at the Caltrain station over here in San Bruno. When I came on board, she was already in a housing plan. I took over the case, and I continued with the housing plan. And previously, before I got on board, it was a hassle to get off the street and get her to go to her medical appointments and stay with the system and the process. And so I was able to connect with her on a daily basis and have her open up to me, and we developed a relationship, and she's now housed. She has her own apartment in East Palo Alto, and ever since, she's been off the streets.
That's great. Good. I know we have some issues in San Bruno, maybe not as large as some other cities, but we're working closely with your group to try to get those things corrected. The first thing I asked is, well, okay, you get people off the street, then what happens to them? And that's where you come in. So that's a real important thing, to get people back into society and living in a good environment and proper health care. It's really, really important. So I really appreciate all your efforts. I'm on the subcommittee, and so I've had to work with you closely, and it's been a pleasure. Anyone else? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Item number 5, review of the agenda. Anything on the agenda this evening? Okay, item number 6, approval of the minutes of the special closed session council meeting of January 10th and regular council meeting of January 10th, 2017. Any errors, corrections, or omissions? Seeing none, to be approved as submitted. Item number 7, we have a consent calendar this evening. All items are considered routine or implemented earlier council action and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested. Anything on consent?
Through the chair.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I just want to, I just want to pull 7G, please.
G, okay.
Read my mind.
Oh, okay.
Anything else?
To the chair, I'd like to pull item C and item D.
C and D. Okay, anything else?
If there be nothing else, I'll move to approve the remainder of the consent.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the remainder of the consent. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item C is a resolution approving the Recognized Obligation Payment Schedule, or ROPS, 1718, and successor agency administrative budget for the period July 1st, 2017 through June 30th, 2018. Marty?
Yes, so this is something I'm not truly familiar with, and I was hoping that I could get some feedback from staff to explain what this program actually does, and is it, how does it actually work? If you could just spend a short description of what this is all about. Short?
Welcome, Jim.
Or long.
Or long. I don't think the rest of the council would like long this evening.
And welcome back, Jim.
Well,
I
thank
haven't
you.
seen you in a while.
Let me just say it's a pleasure to be back and and to see you all looking so young compared to me. So the ROPS is a document and a schedule that is related to the successor agency, the redevelopment agency. And when the redevelopment agencies, all redevelopment agencies were required to disband as a result of state action, the agency had in place certain obligations that might actually proceed for about a 20-year period that continued. There were contracts in place that needed to get paid, such as the low moderate housing payment related to the units over at the crossing. That was an obligation of the agency, and just because the agency went away, that didn't mean that obligation and that contract went away. And the state recognized that in the process, those obligations for all redevelopment agencies that were in place needed to still go forward. There's an oversight, the city council formed the oversight committee for the successor agency, and this is a document. What this particular ROPS does is outline the obligations of the old redevelopment agency that will need to be paid in the year 17-18, beginning July 2017 through June of 2018. So listed are all the obligations of the successor agency, really from the old redevelopment agency. So you'll see there's a couple of them, like I indicated, are related to the they're related to the housing requirement at the crossing. There is the certificates of participation debt expense for the police building. There is, and one of the bigger payments, and this is an obligation of the successor agency, is over the course of the life of the redevelopment agency, the city entity itself lent the redevelopment agency about $3 million. And one of the obligations of the redevelopment agency and then the successor agency is to repay that $3 million that the city lent to the redevelopment agency. And over the course of a 3-year period, that debt, in fact, has been repaid. And in this period, the last of the debt payments for that obligation will, in fact, be paid.
That's pretty good.
That's a quick statement.
Right.
If that's
And I just wanted to, there, $370,000 a year is going to affordable housing at Archstone 2. $311,000 a year is going to Archstone 1.
Correct.
So that's a pretty important part that what the city is contributing for affordable housing in San Bruno. And I think that's important for that to be acknowledged, that the city is doing something. And that's why I wanted to hear about it, and that's
Okay.
why I pulled it from the consent agenda.
and that isn't, those obligations will continue through 2031. So this is an ongoing
Right.
obligation that the city has. So it's not one time.
Right.
It has been in existence, and it'll go through 2031.
I'm reading 2023 and 2040.
Well, maybe I'm,
Item 3 and 4 on page 2.
yeah, well, let me confirm, yeah, I see, well, 2035, it says for Archstone 1.
They were originally
time.
30-year obligations.
They were 30-year obligations.
fine.
The math, I guess,
Right.
And through the chair, just clarification too, all of this happened where we used to have redevelopment and it had to switch over to this because the state was in financial economic turmoil. And this was one mechanism that they took back something from each of the cities and communities in order to balance their budget.
If
And
you had a
that's-
redevelopment agency, that was taken away from you.
Yes.
That's exactly correct. And this city was really on the cusp with the redevelopment agency of being able to really do some things that was the vision of the council that was stopped. The other point, just quickly, is the finance department has prepared and submitted to the State Department of Finance a final ROPS. There is a process, I think it goes through 2018, where even individual successor agencies are going to be eliminated, and there will be one county-wide oversight board. And so we will be going through a process shortly, and it will ultimately, in some period of time here in the not-too-distant future, come back to the council where there will be a final ROPS and final closeout of the successor agency. And so this review by the council is, it's actually a process that's getting close to the end.
Thank you.
Okay. Action on item C.
Move to approve item C.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Item D is adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase of cable department equipment in the amount of $162,311.
Through the chair. So the reason why I pulled this was because I wanted to draw attention to what our cable company, our fiber company is doing, and this is part of it, that we have to reinvest in our equipment to be able to have a high-quality service. And if I could just have a little bit of commentary about what this we're paying for, and perhaps a brief update on the fiber installation that is occurring at Shelter Creek.
Thank you, Councilmember. So tonight, there's a couple of items that we have before you to purchase, and replenishing our DVRs and our high-definition cable boxes is one of those items. It's to replenish our inventory and to provide replacement equipment for customers seeking larger hard drives or just newer hard drives for their DVRs. And the other piece of equipment we're purchasing is for our internet service. We have a piece of equipment at our head end called a cable modem termination system, and it has ports on it which are assigned to different areas of San Bruno. And so we want to expand those ports and purchase some new ones so we can increase the viability and the operation of our internet service. So those are the two expenditures we have tonight. As far as the fiber goes, we are at Shelter Creek, as you all know, thanks to your approval, and we are about a third of the way through our installations. Most of the buildings are completely wired, but now we're going through each of our customers there, and we have over 800 customers, and we are installing the new equipment, which consists of a newer modem and a device for television service too that fits on the wall, and a fiber connection as opposed to the current connections that you'll see today. So it's moving along. We are gaining subscribers there. We are seeing some growth. We are seeing a lot of excitement over the speeds that we will be able to offer while we're there. But it is, through the holidays, it was a little rough. Through the rainy season, it hasn't ended yet. It's been a little tough getting people to switch over, but we are getting really good cooperation with the management team up at Shelter Creek as well, and we're moving that project along.
Thank you.
Okay. Action on D.
Move to approve item D.
Second.
Motion second to approve item D and the consent. All in favor?
Aye.
And item G, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a 3-year contract with Superior Pressure Washing for downtown sidewalk pressure washing services in an amount not to exceed first-year budget of $28,800 for calendar year 2017.
Thank you. I just wanted to call people's attention to this. Unfortunately, because of the water conservation requirements from the state and our own, we had to suspend washing the sidewalk in front of the businesses on San Mateo Avenue in our downtown for almost 2 years. We're bringing it back, and we used to do it 4 times a year. Now we're going to be doing it 6 times a year. So hopefully you'll be seeing a difference. So I just wanted to inform people who have been very concerned about how the downtown looks.
Okay.
And
Action on item G.
did you want to say more? No? Okay. I move to approve.
Second.
Motion second on item G and is consent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right into public hearings. There aren't any this evening. Next item is public comment on items not on this agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and interaction where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Would anyone like to address the council under public comment? Okay.
Robert Rico, 7th Avenue. I gave the city clerk a form, but I guess you're not going to use them tonight. I just wanted to remind everybody that,
Got it right here.
I thought you said, does anybody want to speak? And I
I
didn't.
did, but I just got these right after I said that, so you're good.
Am I good?
You're good.
Do I have to start over? No.
No.
The American Cancer Society's Relay for Life kickoff party is going to be next Monday, 6 to 8 o'clock. This year, Daly City, South San Francisco, and San Bruno went together and formed one entity to put on the event. This year it's going to be in April in the city park, but we're having the kickoff on the 30th from 6 to 8 at the San Francisco Wine School, 415 Grand Avenue in South San Francisco. Since it's the wine school, you have to be 21 or older to get in. We're going to do something later, I think, for the younger kids, but there will be activities. You can learn about the event, the survivors, the caregivers, the luminaria. I have a few brochures that I'll leave back here, and thank the city again for their continuing support. They're working with us very well in determining how we're going to use City Park. So,
All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. Next speaker is Tim O'Brien regarding dog ordinance in the parks.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak. And my wife and I and other residents attended the Parks and Rec committee meeting last week. And what was brought up was the dog ordinance. And we'd like to see it amended. It's been in effect since 1988. And times have changed. There's lots of residents now in San Bruno with four-legged kids, as we like to call them. And so we'd like to see the council to consider amending the dog ordinance, allowing dogs, four-legged kids, in parks on a leash, and also, you know, we bring this up because of Commodore Park. We talked about dog park, and it's not very accommodating for four-legged kids. I know it was like a quick fix to allow dogs to play in that certain area, but it's not very accommodating, like I said. And we'd like the city to consider other spots throughout the city for a nice, accommodating dog park for everybody to enjoy. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Vinay. Hope I said it correctly.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I just want to talk about the street that I live on, 7th Avenue. Cross street is Walnut, and I've been living there for about 30 years now. Been too long. My son goes to the same elementary that I've went to. And had massive flooding this year because of the heavy rain. So, you know, really, there's only 4 houses there, and we'd like to get some help to prevent the flooding in the future. It was pretty severe. The water was in our garage, actually. And and I know there's a creek right across, and due to the ocean's high tide as well. And second thing, I just want to put it out there is a couple of our schools who really need some financial help. We got 4th and 5th grade that's being divided or being stuck together, 4th and 5th grade students, and it's really difficult for the teachers and for my son and the other students to learn at the same time. We got 31 students in a classroom with one teacher. That's extremely difficult. We went to the board, school district, and we spoke, but it seems like there's no help. A couple of years back, they cut back on teachers because they stated it was financial burden. And this year, they eliminated one teacher position and put 4th and 5th grade students together. It's really difficult, so any kind of help would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. We did ask for speaker cards, but anybody else under public comment? Okay. All right. Just tell us your name and your street, please.
Yeah, my name's Ray Betts. I live on Hensley, 736 Hensley. And the parking problem that we've been having there I've been there for about 25, 30 years. It's always been a problem. But now that we have this driveway ordinance for this blocking the sidewalks, that more people have to park on the street. So we also have a problem with the parking. We have limited parking out in front of our house due to the we can't park there between, let's see, 7 and I think it is 6. And it's only on half the block. And I've talked to, years ago, I've talked to the city manager about it. And what I think the problem is the businesses like the Toyota dealership, Midas, what's the other one? Dave, there's an auto repair shop, and then there's more used car sales down the street. What the businesses do is they park on the street also, congesting the street. And then the church down the street also parks there on during events on Saturdays and Sundays. So it just makes it hard for the residents there to park their car because we end up, fighting over the parking. And I just was wondering if maybe some answer with the parking, maybe pull the sign up or talk to the businesses. Maybe they can put their, have their employees park on their own lots, or maybe even the customers too, because they all park on that street.
Right.
So.
Thank you.
Okay.
I know it's been a difficult issue. We're going to have a formal item on the next agenda regarding parking, so we'll be able to discuss it in more detail at that time. So that'll be February 14th.
To discuss parking?
Yes. Did you have something to?
Yeah,
Just tell us your name and your street.
my name is Callista Shepherd. I'm on Poplar Avenue. Hello, I wasn't going to speak, but as long as this came up, I just wanted to remark that I'm sure you know me because I email staff and council often on the issue of neighborhoods being negatively impacted by adjacent businesses, and you know that we're having a problem with Victory Honda. And what I also wanted to offer is that I understand that there are conditional use permits, and there are, at least as far as we are right near Victory Honda. So many of our neighbors are negatively impacted by employees parking on the street against the conditional use permit, et cetera. So we have already brought this to your attention and the staff's attention, and we have also already brought it before planning, and our understanding is that the planning department is going to be making a staff report to the planning commission next time, and one of these issues, and I wonder if the other neighbor who brought up parking by a business near them, if that business actually does have a conditional use permit, where in that permit one of the conditions may be that they have an obligation to have off-street parking of a certain amount for employees, as we do. And we know that if they will address that, at least in our neighborhood, that will probably alleviate some of the negative community impact. So I offer that. I'm glad that there's an opportunity that we're going to have the parking, because I know it's affecting all of San Bruno. And also, I would just like to again ask the council, because I know that there is an important issue about businesses and the tax basis for the city, which we understand. We would also like to know that the businesses that are here are complying with their conditional use permit so that it is equally applied. And so I would just ask that you follow this issue. Please take an active oversight step on it. And if you do care about that local business being a good citizen and neighbor and complying, that you may want to take an additional step and make sure that they do.
Thank you.
We're not trying to run them out of town. We're just trying not to be run over ourselves. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, item 10, conduct of business. Our first item is item A, adopt a resolution authorizing the adoption of the A Company, 1st Battalion, 506th Infantry, 1st Brigade Combat Team, 101st Airborne Division by the City of San Bruno. Chief?
Thank you. Good evening again, Honorable Mayor and council members. Americans Supporting Americans, or ASA, began its work in 1967 when Sergeant Joe Artavia wrote his older sister from Vietnam, asking her to do something to help raise the morale of his unit in the 101st Airborne. Joe's sister, Linda Patterson, as a young woman living in San Mateo, California, convinced her hometown to adopt her brother Joe's unit in Vietnam. Believing that the individual soldiers needed to feel the interest and concern of communities back home, San Mateo agreed to Linda's request. As a result, the morale of Joe's fellow soldiers was, in Joe's own words, raised as high as the clouds. Tragically, Joe, who was just 19, was later killed in action 3 weeks following the adoption of his unit. To this day, the men in his unit gratefully remember him and Linda each time they look at a cherished medallion that reads City of San Mateo, Adopted Son. After Joe's death, Linda traveled to Vietnam to personally deliver the medallions San Mateo had issued in honor of Joe and the men in his unit. Many of the men carry those medallions to this day. ASA has facilitated the adoption of many units by towns and cities across the country. Through these adoptions, both soldiers and civilians are discovering the unique and crucial link that exists between the men and women of our armed forces and the American citizens they are charged to protect. In times of both war and peace, this strong connection has proved dynamically and richly rewarding to all involved. ASA has, over the years, learned that the greatest benefit is gained when the adoption remains active, whether the unit is at home or deployed abroad. There are many ways the two can demonstrate their care and patriotism towards one another. For example, when units are home, they have visited with the community, participating in a variety of events and activities. Traditionally, units deployed abroad count on letters and care packages from adoptive cities to boost morale and help them feel connected to home. 7 cities within San Mateo County have adopted units within the 101st Airborne. These cities include San Mateo, Burlingame, Foster City, Millbrae, San Carlos, and Belmont. ASA has requested San Bruno's participation in the program by adopting A Company, 1st Battalion, 506th Infantry, 1st Brigade Combat Team of the 101st Airborne Division. The 506th Infantry Regiment is an airborne light infantry regiment of the United States Army. The 1st Battalion, 506th Infantry Regiment is assigned to the 1st Brigade Combat Team, 101st Airborne Division in Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Since 1942, the regiment has a long and distinguished record of service in World War II, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Its motto is Currahee, which in Cherokee means stand alone, or stands alone. Of the 22 Medals of Honor awarded to soldiers within the 101st Airborne, 7 were Currahee. Should Council authorize the adoption of this unit, it would be adopted by the city as a whole. Staff recommends that the Police Explorer program serve as the coordinating entity for the city to lead this effort. Police Explorers are volunteers between the ages of 14 and 21 looking for ways to give back to the community. And we have some of our explorers and our explorer advisors here tonight who would do most of the heavy lifting should we proceed with this effort. And while the explorers would manage this program, they would seek the assistance of community service groups and private partners interested in supporting this worthy cause. The adoption of this unit would be continuous and on a permanent basis. However, the city may choose to discontinue its participation at any time. Activities related to adopting a unit include sending letters and care packages, having unit members speak to school and community groups, holding social gatherings to express the community support, finding joint community service projects to work on, and supporting family members of personnel deployed overseas. The role of the Police Explorers would be to seek partnerships, raise funds, and facilitate the support of soldiers and their families. In addition to setting up the initial adoption, ASA would provide ongoing adoption support services needed to help make this adoption a success. This help comes in many forms, including fundraising assistance, postings on the ASA website, distributing ASA electronic newsletters and email updates, providing guidance in selecting adoption activities, and providing handbooks and brochures. San Bruno has a long history of supporting the military. The Golden Gate National Cemetery is the city's most hallowed and sacred ground, and the Avenue of Flags does a tremendous job in supporting that location. For years, San Bruno was home to a Naval Engineering Command base and continues to house an armory for the California National Guard. Additionally, the 23rd Marine Regiment headquarters is located in the center of town. We enjoy a strong, productive relationship with this regiment, and the adoption of the 101st Airborne Unit would not detract or compromise our support for our Marine Corps personnel. There is no anticipated increase in demand on staff time and no anticipated fiscal impact to the city should we proceed. The police department already invests in the Explorer program and sees it as a valuable program. We assign Explorer advisors who facilitate monthly meetings and supervise Explorers when they are working special events. The Adopt a Unit program would be incorporated into the Explorer program schedule, with most of the work being done on a volunteer basis by our young people. Costs associated with the Adopt a Unit program would be covered via the Police Explorer fundraising efforts. Staff does recommend that Council adopt the resolution authorizing the adoption of this 101st Airborne Unit. There are a couple people here tonight that have led this effort in other cities. Leanne Thornton from the city of Hillsborough and Patrice Olds from the city of San Mateo, who have done a tremendous job on their own city's behalf in adopting units within the 101st Airborne, and we hope to learn a great deal from them in moving forward. And I'd be happy to answer any questions, and if I can't answer them, I will invite our experts in the audience to answer them.
Any questions for the chief? Marty?
I would just like you to formally.
I'm sure they'd be thrilled with that. Ladies, would you like to come on up and introduce yourselves?
It's an amazing, wonderful thing you're doing, and you deserve recognition for it, so thank you very much.
And Leanne Thornton on the left there is also very active in the USO and has been recognized internationally for her work at USO. She's regularly at San Francisco International Airport and other places across the country, dealing with some pretty difficult times with soldiers and their families. So thank you for that.
Would either of you like to address the council at all about anything regarding this program?
They were so anxious earlier. I'm surprised.
That's incredible.
And we do have to acknowledge that Leanne was a former San Bruno Police Department employee. So we're glad to have you back here, and thank you for both of you and all that you do.
Leanne is the heart of the program here. I want to thank you and commend you for looking and taking this action, considering it going forward. And I want to say one of the things, I've been in charge of the program in the city of San Mateo for just 5 years, but it was the reason I left my previous city and came to San Mateo, because this is real community involvement. And what I love about this program is that it brings out every facet of the community. You have your explorers who are going to be leading the charge, but what you'll have are community members donating food items, coming to packing parties, rallying around the letters that come out. It really draws together. You have school children involved because they get to write letters. It reaches into every facet of the community, and it really does serve not only in supporting our troops who deserve and need, and it makes a difference to them, but it does something for the city of San Bruno too, bringing you together. You are the city with a heart, and this will just reestablish and build on that even more.
Thank you.
Luann? Oh, you did such a great job. Anyway, we are here and poised and ready to offer support to the chief and his team. And it's fun to do. It's really worthwhile, and you feel good about it.
Good. Thank you very much. I know this Friday at the Council of Cities, you're going to have a little program regarding this, and I'm really happy that I'm going to be there, and San Bruno is going to be the 7th city. So this is great. Thank you very, very much.
Through the chair.
Dan?
I would just like to say that last year I was at San Mateo City Hall on other business, and the place was all abuzz. I think I got in the middle of a packing party. And I learned about it, and then ironically we were at Wreaths Across America, and there she was. She was talking us into joining in, and we were anxious to do it. You work fast, so we're very anxious to do it, and as a member of a local service organization, we're anxious to help out the explorers. Thank you very much.
Through the chair. Also, Councilman Iber is correct that we were at the Reese, and there was Leanne. and it was just timing. We went and saw Nimitz. We got educated while we were there. And I want to thank the chief for putting this together, offering his department as the guidance to this. I want to thank the Avenue of Flags for hosting that, because that's where some of this came from. And Leanne, thank you for you doing what you're doing, and thank you for bringing it back home to where you worked, and thank you for bringing it to us.
Thank you. And just for the record, this has been in the works for quite some time, actually, so. Item 10B, adopt a resolution accepting the city's comprehensive annual...
We have to adopt the resolution.
I'm sorry, we better adopt the resolution.
We all sounded good, and then we were going to go next.
Would someone like to introduce the resolution?
I would. Ken, is that all right?
Go ahead.
I will go ahead and introduce the resolution for our adoption.
Councilmember Rico Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Marty Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Now we're formal. Good. All right, now item 10B, adopt a resolution accepting the city's comprehensive annual financial report, report on Measure A funds, and a report on Transportation Development Act compliance for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2016.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, this is an opportunity for the annual review by the council of the city's audit. This audit is for the fiscal year ending June 2016. This is really an opportunity for not a staff report, but for communication with the city's independent auditor. And I would like to introduce to you David Alvey is the audit partner for Mays and Associates. Mays has conducted this audit, and as you recall, this is the first year of their auditing for the city, and so I would like to introduce David to you for his presentation.
Great. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. We're here today to have you review and approve a couple documents today, probably the most important being the CAFR, or the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2016. And my firm, Mays and Associates, is independent from the city, and it's really hard for us as auditors because we have to work with finance staff, but we report to the council. And we want to make sure that the policies and procedures that are adopted and approved here are followed through by staff. And this is our first year working with the city, and it's always good to go out to the market and get maybe a fresh set of eyes to come in and look at the city, because not all audit firms operate the same way. Some firms have different styles, different approaches, and unfortunately, you don't want finance staff to get accustomed to those styles and approaches or try to anticipate them. So we have our audit broken up into different phases, an interim and a final phase. The interim phase, we were here in July 26th for the week, or 25th for a week, and during that phase, we really focus on internal controls, and we want to see really good segregation of duties. If somebody has physical access to an asset, we want to make sure they're not recording it on the books, because that's a potential problem that somebody could be fraudulently reporting something. And then during the final phase, we come out, and that's when we really focus on the balance and get the actual CAFR produced. And during the whole phase, both interim and final, we do a risk assessment approach where we look at the city's assets, liabilities, and everything on a risk basis. What's more risky than not, or than other things? And then during that phase of the audit, whatever we find out, if internal controls are good, then maybe the risk goes down. If they're bad, it goes up. And we do a brainstorming session with the whole audit team, from the right out of college associate all the way up to the partner, and we break down what areas we think are risky, and then we do a tailored audit plan to mitigate those risks. Our audit was also conducted in accordance with government auditing standards and generally accepted auditing standards issued by the comptroller. And kind of the bottom line, and really the only piece of this document that my firm owns, is page 1 through 3, and that's our audit opinion. And so I'm pleased to say that it's an unmodified opinion. That's the highest level of assurance, and all the financial statements are fairly stated with all material respects. And that's a real testament to sound financial reporting and good controls within the finance department and the city in entirety. We do have an emphasis of a matter paragraph that we'd like to bring to your attention. So this is something new. This is something that only happened this year. And kind of like what I said before, where you have different auditors come in with different approaches and different viewpoints, we had to actually restate beginning net position for the other post-employment benefit liability that was on the books last year. So that would be benefits that retirees receive after retiring, like medical, dental. Because the city pays into a Teamsters plan, which is actually a defined contribution plan rather than a defined benefit. So let me explain that just a little bit. So the city is on the hook to pay a certain dollar amount. That dollar amount goes into the trust, and then those monies are used to pay a certain flat dollar amount to retirees to cover medical benefits. If the money that the city pays in is not enough, if medical, skyrockets 30 years from now, the city is not on the hook for any additional monies going into the trust. Whereas a defined benefit, where no matter how much it costs, that benefit is promised to the employee no matter how much it costs. So long as the city pays those into the Teamsters plan, this trust, there's no other liability on the books. So that was a pretty substantial item that I'd like to bring to your attention. A couple other things in our audit opinion. 2 new governmental accounting standards boards pronouncements. I'm not going to go into them in real detail. GASB 72 has to do with fair market value. So it really, it's disclosure only in the footnotes. There's no financial statement impact, not like GASB 68 and putting that pension liability on the books. And it really does, it just brings into the limelight what management is using to value cash and investments, mostly investments for fair market value. Whereas a level 1 to level 3, a level 1 meaning that you can go out on the stock market and figure out what the value is now, or level 3 would be something more specific, like a appraisal, something very specific to the city. And then GASB 82 was just a cleanup of a couple of things in the pension GASB that needed to be done. So I guess the big line there is there was no financial statement impact for those. So going into just some of the financial highlights, the government-wide. So the restatement of the other post-employment benefits resulted in a 17.9 increase in beginning net position. So that was beginning of July 1, 2015. So during the year under audit, the net position increased by 6.1 million to 103 million. And that really had to do with a couple of factors, more revenue over expenses, and also some investment in city infrastructure and rehabilitation. And the net pension liability increased 8.2 million. And that really is from CalPERS, and that has to do with a lot of factors. The market kind of took a hit. A lot of the investments in the trust took a hit in January of last year. So that reduces the assets, thus increases the liability of the plan. Going more into the governmental funds and looking at the general fund in particular, it increased by 17 million. And this was a couple of things, about 3 things we're going to talk about here. One was consolidation of funds into the general fund, and that would be the capital improvement fund and the equipment revolving funds from last year. Technically, under GASB rules, those need to be combined in the general fund. So it's a little misleading showing the increase, but it's just think of it as some of the funds combined together. Also, higher than expected revenue, property tax and sales tax came in a little higher than expected, along with transient occupancy tax, and also some cost containment. Department heads were really good about watching their budget and keeping those monies under budget, and also some salary savings there. In the enterprise funds, or the business type funds, we had water and wastewater increase by 2.7 and 5 million, really from current year investment in infrastructure and rehabilitation, along with a little bit of a rate increase. Stormwater increased by 260,000. Again, just revenue over expenses. And the cable television fund net position decreased by $1.9 million. And that was really due to previous investment in infrastructure. The cable fund has almost $900,000 of depreciation reflected in that amount. So that's pretty hefty for that fund. And the investment in the fiber optic cables last year sounds like it's still going on this year. The second document that we have for your approval is the Memorandum on Internal Controls, and this is my firm's communication with those in charge of governance of what we found during the audit. And there's certain criteria that we have to bring to your attention. Material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, and other matters. A material weakness is that something material to the city can flow through the internal controls and not be caught. That's really bad. We didn't find any of those. A significant deficiency is something other than a material weakness that can flow through the internal controls and not be caught, and we didn't find any of those either. And the only thing that we have now is the other matters, and that's just anything that's not in the two above categories. And we're just bringing to your attention upcoming GASB statements. And the big one that I'm sure you guys have heard and talking about is GASB 75, when we're going to be putting, or I'm sorry, it's not going to come into effect here because of the pension liability, or the OPEB liability. And then the other compliance reports are the Measure A, having to do with the San Mateo County transit funds, and then the TDA funds, and that's grant from the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. And with that, I'd just like to say that the city has already submitted the CAFR for the award, and we're intending to get the GFOA award like we have in the past, or you have in the past. And I'd like to thank finance staff. Darlene and Helen have been great through the whole process. Jim came on last minute, but he's been good as well. Taking credit, like you said, I came in when 99% of it was done, and I'll just step in here. And with that, I'd like to open up to any questions you might have.
Another pat on the back, Mr. O'Leary. Any questions for our auditor? Anyone? Action by the council?
I'll take action, but first, do congratulate staff 6 years in a row, and I know it was started with Jim O'Leary, so thank you very much on that. With that, I'll introduce the resolution.
If I could just for a second, and it is true, I walked in when it was 95% complete, but that 5% was a critical element that needed to be done. No, I'm not going to take credit like I normally do, but I would like to mention, again, Darlene Wong and Helen Yu Scott are vitally important people in the finance department, and I just want to tell you that they do a wonderful job, and they were critical for getting not just the 5% that I'll take credit for, but the rest of it. They were critical because the finance director did leave at a very critical time for completion of the CAFR, and they both stepped up and did a great job. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you again. Thank you. Introduce.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Marty Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 10C, waive the first reading and introduce an ordinance to comply with the California Voter Participation Rights Act, as Senate Bill 415, by extending current council member terms by 1 year and holding future elections in even-numbered years starting in 2018. And we do have speaker cards if you wanted to speak.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. We're back here in front of you after the study session a couple of weeks ago to bring back at the council's direction an ordinance to extend council member terms and hold the next municipal election in the year 2018. So there were two public policy reasons for why the council directed staff to bring back this ordinance. The first reason, which we discussed at the study session, is so that all council member positions, all seats are treated equally. In other words, everybody gets the same term. And I think everyone can understand why that's important, that terms of individual council seats aren't left up to a different decision at every single election. So that's one public policy reason, to have a uniform, everybody gets a 1-year extension, and there's an election in 2018. The second, and perhaps equally as important public policy reason, is that it substitutes a potentially much higher turnout 2018 election for a potentially much lower turnout and relatively expensive 2017 election and possibly a 2019 election. So let's look at that a little bit more closely as we did in the staff report that's in front of the council. Historically, the city of San Bruno has experienced voter turnout in its odd year elections on the order of about 5,000 to 6,000 people who are turning out. The city has about 22,000 registered voters. The even year elections, in contrast, historically over the last number of years, have had a turnout of anywhere between 10 and about 18,000 voters, so 2 to 3 times the turnout for odd year elections. So while the city council under this proposed ordinance would be canceling the 2017 election, the public policy basis for doing that articulated by the council is that at that election there would likely be relatively fewer people voting, and instead having an election in 2018 where perhaps 2 or 3 times as many people vote would create a public policy balance that in the council's view was appropriate. And so that's why we're back here tonight with the ordinance as written. An extension of terms for 1 year, canceling the 2017 election and holding a 2018 election instead. So that is the public policy trade-off for the council and for discussion this evening. There is also a question, which we highlighted in the staff report, about the expense of these various elections. And as you saw from the staff report, it's a little difficult to get exact information from the county elections office. It's a bit of a moving target also because as time went on, most cities in San Mateo County were actually switching to the 2018 elections. But in broad terms, the 2017 and or 2019 elections, should the council decide to hold those instead of what has been proposed here, those elections would cost on the order of magnitude of about low 6 figures, $100,000, $150,000. The 2018 election, in contrast, I think the city clerk has indicated from the county, would cost somewhere in the neighborhood of the low 5 figures, so about $30,000, $35,000, something like that. So that's the order of magnitude difference between the odd year elections and the even year elections. So the ordinance that's in front of you does do those things that a majority of the council requested. And we do need to talk about, are there any alternatives? And those alternatives were discussed at the study session and are again presented for you in the table in the staff report. So for example, if the city council decided instead to hold a 2017 election for a term of 3, 4, or 5 years, they'd have to decide. That would get them on they'd have to get on an even schedule. Then you'd need to decide, how do you handle the seats that are up in 2019? And so, for example, what Burlingame did recently is they chose to have both elections, the odd year elections, 2017 and 2019, in order to eventually, after quite a number of years, get everybody back on an even year schedule. Other than San Mateo that I'm aware of, and there may be a couple of others, other cities that we haven't heard about, Burlingame is the only city that has decided to hold 2017 and 2019 elections. There's San Mateo, and there may be one or two others. There are a couple of other special districts that are also holding those elections, so there would be some 2017 or 2019 elections, but not very many. So based on the direction at the study session, we have provided you with an ordinance to extend and have a 2018 election and at all even years thereafter. So at the first possible opportunity, the council has directed staff with this ordinance to hold relatively high turnout, relatively low cost even year elections. By the way, similar to the school district, which also had their elections in odd years and have switched to even years. So that concludes my staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mark?
Through the chair. So in the staff report, it states that if an election was to be held in 2017, and in the chance that San Bruno was the only jurisdiction to hold an election, that it would be approximately 157,000 if it was an all-mail ballot. And that,
Right.
that's what it says in the
That's
staff
what it
report,
says,
yeah.
and we
So,
know now that there are a few other jurisdictions that will be holding.
and in
the
order to do
2017.
a mail-in ballot, all jurisdictions would have to agree on an mail-in ballot.
Right, the county elections office and all participating jurisdictions would have to agree.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Marty?
So I sent our county clerk, Mark Church, an email on Friday night asking how much would it cost? And some of the numbers match up. To have a 2017 election solely in San Bruno, if we were the only city to do it with all the polling places, based on 22,333 registered voters, it would cost $303,729. To have a 2017 election based on the current amount of cities that are having an election would be $66,999. To have an all mail-in ballot election, which would require all the cities, counties, agencies that are having an election to agree to having a mail-in ballot, it would be $39,529. So my opinion is if those cities that or agencies that have currently decided to have an election, they're going to want to save money and have the all mail-in election. I think we should be contacting them because the costs that I receive from the county clerk are substantially cheaper than what has been reported.
Well, what you said, Mark, is they all have to agree to do a mail ballot.
Right, and I do think the staff report was clear that the information we received from the county from the county elections office was based on was for the study session at the last meeting, and the clerk was not able to get updated information. I'm pleased that Councilmember Medina was apparently able to get that so quickly because the city clerk has been trying to do that for the last number of weeks with not very much success, and that's probably attributable to the fact that cities are in flux and are sort of constantly deciding whether they're going to do even year or odd years. But the information in the staff report was accurate when we prepared the staff report.
Just for clarification purpose of the actual cost, it's budgeted $35,000, so for $30,000 to $35,000 was the budgeted for the election for 2017. So what we're talking about is less than $5,000 to have the election that our public was anticipating on having.
If it's all mail.
Oh, correct.
Right.
And if it isn't, then it's $67,000 based on the current number of agencies, cities that are having an election.
Okay. Rico, did you have something?
Just for clarification, SB 450.
Is your information different? No,
Just for clarification, SB 415 is that requires the city to have a plan of some sort by 2018, and requires the city, all cities, to by 2022 be on, to have the elections.
That's correct.
In sequence.
Yes.
Okay. So it's not a requirement to do it right this minute.
It is not.
Okay, thank you.
We have three speakers this evening. First is Ryan Mersney.
Hello, Ryan Mersney, Keynes Avenue.
Excuse me, Carol, would you punch that button, please?
I'm greatly troubled by what I and many others perceive to be a pattern of unprincipled power grabs by the majority of the City Council. An elected official extending the length of their term may be legal, but it is not ethical nor honorable. I have read SB 415, and there's nothing, and I do repeat nothing, in SB 415 that prevents San Bruno from holding a vote in November 2017, other than fear of and contempt of the voters. I'm sure you will use the excuse that the election would cost too much. Saying democracy costs too much seems hypocritical coming from the majority of this council. Just recently, the council denied allowing a vote on the sale of the property to OTO. The cost of fighting 3,200 registered voter signatures in court was far more than the cost of the election. You didn't mind spending money on lawyers to deny us a vote. Now you are using the tortured logic, it costs too much to vote. While the sale of the land is a separate issue from the unprincipled and perfunctory extension of your terms, it does show a pattern. I suspect you're going to hide behind the argument that the hotel sale was an administrative act and not a legislative act. We all know the majority of the council could have instructed the city attorney to simply allow the petition process to go forward and let the voters decide. You didn't carry out the law, you manipulated it for the benefit of an out-of-state billionaire developer, OTO. If your agreement with OTO was so beneficial for San Bruno, why were you afraid to let the voters approve of your decision? While others will deride your underhandedness, I would like to compliment you on what I think can best be described as a well-executed Machiavellian maneuver. Bravo. Now you're doing the same thing using SB 415 as an excuse. It really is an insult to our intelligence. You gave the city manager a $20,000 bonus, pushing her total compensation to over $300,000.
Point of order.
But San Bruno
Can we stay on
has
topic, please?
But San Bruno has no money for a vote. You spent a lot of money on lawyer fees to stop a vote on the hotel deal, but an election would cost too much. And I did stay on topic if you had listened. You can come up with excuses using SB 14 to hide behind. You aren't fooling any of us, just insulting and ridiculing us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Stephen Seymour.
First of all, it's really nice that there's so many people here tonight. It's great that so many people are taking advantage and getting involved in local politics. There's probably nothing I can say tonight that will likely change your minds on how you will vote. I'd like for you to think about how long the majority of you've served. At some point, all good leaders lose their effectiveness. While there have been good things that have happened during the terms, there have been many areas of our city that have not prospered. You have several decisions before you tonight. The decisions include extending your old terms by 1 year, or I guess you could allow the residents of San Bruno to make that decision. The residents of San Bruno voted you into office to serve a finite term. If you give yourself another year, you will be doing so at your will and not ours. Ask yourself the following questions. Has our downtown improved during your term? Have our parking challenges improved during your term or got worse? Are our streets in better shape today than they were when you took office, or are they in worse shape? Are our sidewalks in better shape today than when you took office, or are they in worse shape? If your answer to any of these is no, they're not better, then the question I have for you is how could you in good conscience grant yourself another year? You have an important decision before you tonight. This decision is bigger than any single one of you. The decision should not be influenced by several $1,000s, or as we've heard tonight, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, but no more than 60. A leader should make decisions based on what is in the best interest of those they represent. I appeal to each one of you. At the end of the additional year, will our streets, our downtown, our parking situation be any better? Allow the residents of San Bruno the opportunity to consider your record and vote for the candidate of their choice this year in 2017. The people of San Bruno voted you into office and should be allowed to decide who serves next. I don't think that decision is yours, especially when the cost is tens of thousands of dollars, maybe not much more than what a normal election would take. You will be accountable to the decision you make tonight during the next voting cycle. Make your decision wisely. Please consider how it will appear to many if you decide to extend your terms without our consent. Respectfully, Stephen Seymour.
Thank you. Marco Durazo.
Marco Durazo, 2nd Avenue. Voting to extend your own term sends the wrong message. It undermines public trust and suppresses the emergence of new leadership in our city. Nothing in SB 415 prevents San Bruno from holding a vote in November of this year. Not the cost, not the timing, nor the inconvenience of democracy. To the common observer, it can be easy to conclude that there's a pattern emerging. Council denied allowing a vote on the sale of property to OTO, a billionaire out-of-state developer, and now council is posed to suppress another vote for dubious reasons. Is perception reality? You may not want to hear this, but postponing this vote seeks and looks of an accountability. After the OTO debacle, all I heard from council was to trust us, trust us. Now you want me to stand by as you vote to extend your own term. Some of our neighbors have decided to maintain their regularly scheduled elections. Why not San Bruno? Some of you have been on council for a number of years. I respect and value your service. This should not allow you, however, to extend your own term. I, as many others, welcome and expect transparency, dialogue, and genuine commitment from our elected leaders. Do what is right, do what is honorable, and maintain public accountability. Do not postpone these elections.
Thank you. Henry Sanchez.
Henry Sanchez, 1147 Glenview Drive. I'm also the president of the San Bruno Park School District, and we have voted on this very resolution that you're in front of the San Bruno City Council, and we voted yes. And it was critical because on even years, we get a greater turnout, and therefore you get a better selection, and everyone can remember it's time to vote, rather than having all these odd elections. We found this to be very important, especially when you're trying to get individuals to run for the school board and play a critical role in budgetary issues, as well as the instruction of adoption and the evaluation of the superintendent. So I support the passage of this resolution that all elections are even, whether it's the school district, city council, at the county level, at the state level, and federal level. It makes sense. It helps the voters to look at all these issues, both at the local, state, and federal level, and I think it's very important. I think the cost is also important. Over 60% of the constituents of San Bruno historically have voted by mail-in ballot or absentee ballot, and so it gives options to look at the candidates and the issues, propositions. So I think it would be very important to be consistent within the city of San Bruno that's also consistent with the other cities and municipalities within the San Mateo County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Scott Smith.
Hi, thank you for letting me address you today. My name is Scott Smith. I live on Poplar Avenue. My family has been in San Bruno my whole life. So I have strong ties to our community here in our city. And one of the things I've seen San Bruno do is have done some very admirable things. And the city council has done a number of good things for this city, and you should be applauded. I think of the transit corridor plan as one of those, the Grand Boulevard Initiative as another. These are things that are forward moving and part of what makes us San Bruno, I think. And one of the things that's very important to me is democracy and voting. Voting is one of our greatest rights in this country, and the idea of a vote is that we are voting you into an office for a specific period of time. And that's a very important concept because that's how we have change of power in our democracy. We just saw it happen. Not a lot of people were happy about it, but it happened. And if someone was in office and changed their terms, there would be anarchy. And so I know there's practical reasons that we want to look at the option of extending the terms, but the promise that was made to us as voters is that we voted you into office for a specific period of time, and that is what we expect you to serve. And so I know there's cost and other associated issues. I think the cost is negligible for having a sound democracy. And so I think others have said more eloquently in terms of Being able to vote to extend your own terms, it just doesn't seem right. Really, I would say the citizens of San Bruno should vote to see if you could extend your terms, if we really wanted to do something correctly. That said, I'm definitely against us not, I guess I want us to have our election in 2017 and join with some of the other cities that have already made this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, some council discussion. Marty, I'll begin with you. Oh. Oh, one more speaker.
I didn't come here to talk tonight, but something's bothered me that was said earlier, or questions that were posed to you people. And that's about, clean streets, clean sidewalks, et cetera. There's no one that's harped more on some of these cleanup subjects than me since I've lived here. But I recently, it was in 2015, I had the occasion to visit Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I never saw such a clean city in my life. And I went to the city hall about it. I was so impressed. And I thought, oh, well, they only have 5,500 people here. That's why. I found out they have 300,000 tourists during the summer. They have 100,000 in the winter. They put up the cigarette boxes to put the butts, and the people do it. I saw 2 cigarette butts in 5 days that I was there. I saw 1 piece of litter down by a lake. I saw such cleanliness, I couldn't believe it. And why I object to what was said earlier is because I too have held, look at the city council and think, they don't do this, they don't. And then I had an epiphany along the way. I realized who in the hell's been doing it. It's us. We're the ones that litter, speed, run stop signs. We're doing it. I've done stupid things. I'm sure a lot of the people in here have done things, dumping. If we would band together and put as much energy into cleaning up just behind ourselves, not even worry about our neighbor, we'd be in a lot better shape. We'd save a lot of money. And I've seen it. I saw it happen up there. And it's still that way because my daughter and her husband are currently up there. Nothing's changed. It's still clean. And I can't say enough about individuals learning to take responsibility for themselves. I've seen Irene band people together on the beautification task force to get them to clean up town on one Sunday a month. And I sit there and think, why are we doing this? Why aren't the people that are dropping it cleaning up after themselves? That's the only thing I have to say.
Thank you. All right. Marty?
Okay.
Microphone.
Gosh. Okay. I'm clearly against extending my term. It's besides all of the merit that the legislators are trying to give. There's great reasons to do it. Make it an even election, wonderful. To save money, to get more people to vote. It's wonderful. But it comes down to when I ran the first time and I lost, I worked really hard. I knocked on a lot of doors. I talked to a lot of people. I was out among the people. When I ran 2 years later, I knew what I had to do. I ran harder, talked to more people. When you run and you're out there, you hear what the people are saying. And it's very important because things change in neighborhoods over time. So thinking that I could just go ahead and extend my term just seems so un-American to me. And I'm sure probably to everybody. It's just such an odd idea that here we can extend our terms of what our contract that we made with the people when we told them to vote for us. I want to do these things, and that term is for 4 years. It's always been that way. So I understand why it's needed. It goes against the core of what I believe is right. It is legal, but it isn't right to extend your term. Now, if it was $300,000 like it was reported, that'd be a tougher decision to make. That it's going to cost $300,000. How many curb ramps could we put in that? How many trees could we plant? How many police officers could we have with $300,000? But it isn't $300,000. I contacted the clerk. If at the very least we should hold off, confirm it, I could send you the email. It is what it is. So taking this action tonight, we could wait a little longer. If we're going to go ahead and wait to have another election in 2018, there's no rush. So I'm voting no on extending these terms, and I urge everybody to do the same.
Did you say you wanted to, you indicated you wanted to put this off for a while? Is that what you said? To get a better idea of what
the costs are?
The costs are.
To confirm the costs, I mean, I would prefer just to decide to have the elections, but I clearly am not in a position of, we try to extend it in the study session, or to not extend it in the study session. So if I can move that we go ahead and wait to make the decision, I'd be happy to do that at this time, sure.
Well, let's hear
But that's just one, that's one person talking.
Yeah, let's hear what the other council members have to say. Rico?
Sure. Thank you.
Let's hear from my colleagues.
No, we want to hear from you. We're going to go this way. You're up.
I'd like to hear, because I may have a suggestion, but I want to hear from my colleagues.
Well, they want to hear from you first, then you can make a suggestion.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Got your mic?
I got my mic. So we had a study session. We went over some of these facts. If to Councilmember Medina wanted to postpone it to verify dollars, then I would want to have it understood as to how long that's going to be. So it's just not an endless, however it's going to be. Does it take 2 weeks? Fine, or what have you. One thing that I had brought up to the city attorney was a suggestion of, I listened at the study session from about voter turnout, having voters decide, from concern about costs, and a gamut of stuff. So my thought was, and I was running it by the city attorney, was do you have an election in 2017 stipulating it's a 3-year or 5-year term to get it to where it's supposed to be so that the folks have the right to vote for those individuals for the length of term that's described and they know what they're getting. And then also put on that same ballot in 2017 that asks the vote of the people. Do you want to extend the terms from 219 to 220 because of the costs? And put those facts forward and let the people decide. And if they decide, let the terms be extended, so be it. If they say, no, we want an election, we need to find the resources. I know we talk about money, and we have some differing numbers, but these are more current than one in the study session. We just voted on something from the consent calendar for a proposed saving of $64,500 by the interim fire marshal. So we can find money. My concern is what I've heard. I've ran a couple times, yes, but I ran and my term was to end this November. And if I'm asked to serve again, then I want it to come from the folks in this community. I've lived here my whole life, my grandparents and my parents have, and I've been blessed and honored to be elected to serve and represent this town and to try to leave it better than I found it for all that it's given to me. But I don't want to sit up here and find myself saying, I deserve another year. If the folks to say I deserve more time, I'm willing to serve at their pleasure. We can I want to rather err on the side of democracy, and I understand there could be a cost, but I think the people deserve to be heard.
Okay. Quick question for you. Mark, when do we actually have to decide? Just so
You
we know.
have to put a plan in place by January of 2018.
By January of 2018?
That's right.
Okay. And then can it be put on the ballot to do what we're suggesting, in other words?
So that came up, Councilmember Rico Medina's suggestion came up at the study session, and we talked a little bit about that. And I did a statewide survey to determine if anybody had placed a ballot question on and was not able to find anyone that had placed a ballot question on. And I think the reason for that is because it creates a number of both legal and other problems, in that you're asking the electorate to select from a limited group of options about which terms future council members might have, having already decided that current council members who are on the ballot will have, let's say, a 5-year term or a 3-year term. So it really creates a situation where the electors, the public might vote for some individuals for 3 years, others for 4, others for 5, and it's really it wreaks havoc, I think, with the election process to have that sort of thing to occur. And that's the reason, I think, why nobody has placed a ballot question on the ballot.
Okay, thank you. Irene?
There's a lot of issues involved. I applaud everyone's concern about democracy and us potentially extending our terms. First of all, I want everyone to understand that we didn't just sit here and decide to do this or to think about this. This was put down on us through the state, and everyone in the state is having to do this. So it's not like we sat here and said, oh, maybe we should extend our terms. So that should be number one. Number two, people keep talking about costs, but I didn't talk about costs. I don't know if the other council members at the study session, I don't recall them talking about cost as one of the issues per se. It's an issue only that you have to find the money if we need to, but we generally do when we do need to. My big issue is voter participation. The difference between voter participation in odd years and voter participation in even years is 3 or 4 times as many people vote. If you're concerned about democracy, don't you want more people to vote and participate? Not to do a thing that fewer people participate. The school board, and thank you very much for coming and telling us about it, the school board had the very same situation, just like we do. I know many of you out here have kids in school. Not one person went to the school board, and they discussed it twice. They had no public comment about it, none. Nobody wrote a letter, nobody did an email, nobody said anything. And you're saying that we up here have less responsibility or more important or less important than the school board? And where's your democracy there? I don't understand. So that's one of the issues. Another issue is about it was about emerging leadership or suppressing leadership who people want to run and vote. Marty is a great example of us not doing that. Marty ran twice. He lost the first time, he won the second time. Nobody suppressed him from running. Nobody would suppress anyone from running. So if you want to run, run. It's not a lot of fun. It's a lot of hard work, as he said, but nobody's suppressing you. I've been through 6 elections. I've been contested 4 times. I didn't lose, so I'm still here. Somebody must like something I'm doing. So those were some of my comments. I kind of resent the questions about are things better or worse. Some things are better. You know some things are better. We did the crossing. We've improved traffic in some situations. We've did the downtown in some, when we had redevelopment, we fixed some of the facades. We've had improvements in a lot of places. We've spent millions of dollars in improvements in undergrounding, in our sewer and water systems. Nothing you can see particularly, but If we hadn't done them, you would have had a failed system. So are you better off than you were 10 years ago? I think it was Reagan who asked that. Some of you are, some of you aren't. We don't have control over a lot of the problems that are there. Can we do a better job? Absolutely. And we keep striving to do that. We're not sitting idle. So having said all those things, I guess it's obvious I don't see a difficulty with extending our year. A year goes very, very quickly in the life of a council person. We're only part-time people. We only meet twice a month. It's not that big a deal as far as changing our work schedule or adding to it. So I think one of the big disadvantages is if we do odd years, we would be standing alone. The school board would be doing it on an even year. People who would be interested in one or forget about one and not the other, I think we'd get even lower turnout than we have now. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Ken?
I've been through 5 elections. This is my 21st year on this council. And I sat at that study session, and for purely selfish reasons, I said, I deserve an extra year. I'm not going to repeat. I'm very proud of what this council and what this city has done in my 21 years. I can honestly say that we've done a lot more than the previous 80 years in this community. A lot of stuff has been happening. In those 5 elections, voter turnout was low. So I'm used to voter turnout. I'm used to low voter turnout, 5,000 to 6,000 votes coming out. So I don't know how I would campaign for, 75%. Once we didn't have an election. No one came forward. So I was thankful for that. It was a discussion I had with a couple of people in just the last week that got me to thinking that I really don't deserve to allow another year on my term. I don't, no. And I'm not doing it because I take exception to some of the criticism of saying that I'm not going to be ethical or I'm not going to be honorable or I'm a hypocrite if I choose otherwise. Democracy allows us to make this decision, and it just so happens that a majority may choose one other way. The clincher here is that because I'm in my 21st year, I don't know if I want another year. Things have been happening in the last couple months that I had plans for, and they didn't go the way I had planned. So I think it may be time for this councilman to probably end his career in the end of this year. Maybe not. The question is, what if I do decide to step down? What if I decide not to run or go an extra year? I think with that the case, and quite possibly anyone else in this group that decides not to run, the community, the city deserves to elect, to vote, instead of appoint. So at this point, I thank those people that I spoke to for giving me a better insight on how I should react to this. And it has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with money. And that was part of the reason too. And so I'm right at that point, and I guess might have gotten a mixed message at the study session that I was going to vote to extend the term. A year, that was before a lot of things got discussed. That's before talking to those few people and talking to colleagues in other cities. We should vote in 2017.
Thank you, council members. The logical thing for me during the study session was extend the term a year. It's not that big of a deal. We're here. We have never really had major objections to this council in many, many years. Other people have run, and that's fine. I've been very fortunate the last 3 times to be unopposed, and it's an honor, I can tell you that. I do take offense, actually, and maybe I really shouldn't because you're the public and you elected me, on all of this, some of the things that were said tonight, regarding the hotel and all that. It's, get over it. It's done. So, yeah, it's done. So, we have made a lot of improvements in this town, believe it or not, over many, many years. You may not see it, but what we see tonight, I try to step back and look at the bigger picture in the entire community. There are some relatively loud but very few voices that are objecting to some of the things we do. And you know that we work really hard, and we're trying to make a difference, We can't cure your parking problems because, in fact, just in the last 21 years, a lot more cars and a lot more people have moved into this city. We're mandated by the state for SB 415. We're mandated by the state for the other residences that are allowed to be put into your neighborhood. We have no control over it. So there's a lot of things we have no control over. We were a fledgling redevelopment agency a number of years ago. We made some headway. Then Governor Brown took it away. So there's a lot of things we don't have a lot of control over ourselves. But the things that we do have control over, I think we've really made some difference in this city. You saw the budget tonight. We're ahead of the game. We have a hotel coming, development coming in San Mateo Avenue. That'll tie a lot of things together. We worked hard to get a grade separation that we didn't have to pay for, unlike any other city in this county. So there's some positive development coming to this town that we worked very hard for. Unfortunately, it takes a lot of years to get it done. So you don't see it overnight, and that's a complaint. And I understand that completely. So I think, going forward, it's a logical thing to do to extend, just to make it simpler down the road. If there's a huge outcry of objection to this council, I haven't seen it. Even here, it's a relatively small group. But in the bigger picture, we haven't seen it over the last 21 years because we're still here, all right? So obviously tonight it looks like there's 3 votes to have an election in November, if that's what you'd like to do. But I want to ask Mark, since this is an item that waived the first reading and introduced, how should we proceed with this?
So I think there's a couple of decisions you'll need to make tonight or at a later date. If you want us to bring back a different ordinance for introduction, and that decision revolves around what should the terms be of the candidates that are up in 2017 and potentially in 2019. So you do have to get those folks on an even year election cycle, and so that means that those terms should either be 3 years or 5 years for the 2017 and the 2019 year terms. And I would strongly recommend, for legal and other reasons, that all of the terms of the council members be the same, so that you don't have some council members with 3-year terms and some with 5-year terms. Aside from that decision, and we could certainly bring something back, but it would be great to get some direction from the council majority apparently now that wishes to move to the 2017 and potentially 2019 elections. Do you want those for 3-year terms or 5-year terms? I think Burlingame ended up doing it for 5-year terms, if I'm remembering correctly, but you would have an option to do it for 3-year terms as well.
Okay. Any feeling on that? Marty?
I think 5 years would be appropriate, like Burlingame, keeping things consistent. The more important thing would be that it's in the hands of the residents to decide. So 5 is fine.
So I guess one thing to clarify, just to be clear, because I know some members of the public also made a comment about this, and there may have been some confusion about it. The ballot designation would have to indicate how many years. In other words, it's not up to the public to say, do you want 3, 4, 5 years? The city council would direct, these are 5-year terms. And the public's decision is to either vote for the candidate or not vote for the candidate.
Okay. Rico?
I don't know how Councilman Ibarra feels, but I'm okay with the 5. Most of you have some different view.
Ken?
Why do I always have a different view?
A better idea.
I think it should be 3. I mean, 5 is 5 is 5. I mean, we're so used to 4. There's been elections in this county where they've had 2-year terms. Our mayor has a 2-year term. I would be really concerned about electing someone and giving them what we're used to, an extra year. So I think for this first cycle that it should be 3 years. It should be the first even election should be a presidential election, 2020. That's my point.
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
is there
Okay, go ahead.
Just to clarify then, when we're saying council terms, the suggestion, Ken, is the council term would be 3 years, the mayor term would be 1 year?
That is also a decision you'd have to make, because the mayor, who is elected every 2 years, also does need to be on an even year schedule.
So we're a little unique in that situation amongst the rest of the county.
Right.
So I don't know. I just want us to encompass all of that.
Right.
So, Ken?
Mayor should be 3 years.
That's up to the people, right.
So I don't
Marty,
know the
you had
thoughts.
something else?
Thanks for confusing the issue, Rico.
Well, I think we have to address it.
Yes, you're right. 3 years, it's fine. It doesn't, it's in the hands of the San Bruno voters, so understand 3's fine as well.
And then a
Through
year
the
for
chair.
the mayor. That's, I think we have to, you have to put it all together.
Yeah, okay.
Am I right?
Yes,
Well,
Irene?
I'd just like to clarify, the 3 or the 5 is not in the hands of the voters. It's in your hands.
You're correct.
So just to make sure everybody understands that there, the first proposal was just extend everyone's for a year, which would have been, all of us would have served 5, except the mayor. Okay. And then the elections at the even years would have just been for people running for 4 years. So now you guys have to decide, is it 3 years or 5 years, and what do you do about the mayor? But I'm just, no, I'm just making sure everyone understands, because Marty keeps saying it's in the hands of the people. It's not in the hands of the people. The vote for the individuals is in the hands of the people.
Irene, you're correct. I'm wrong. 3 years, we'll decide the 3 years here and put it in the hands of the people to decide who they want for those 3 years. I'm totally fine with that, too.
So that would be 3 years for council and 1 year for mayor. We keep kind of sidestepping that.
Would
So I
you,
make sure.
would you mind, I don't think we've settled on the term of council members. Could we go through that first, determine what would be the term of the council members that would be on the ballot, and then determine what would be the term of the mayor that would be on the ballot?
Okay, fair.
Okay.
I believe if we're setting the groundwork here. It's never been done before. If we're proposing a 3-year term for the city council, which has never been done before, why can't for this cycle, because the mayor's position is up in 2017, why can't the mayor have a 3-year term? I mean, you look at the record. The mayor has a 2-year term and has pretty much been reelected automatically for most of those terms. So,
And I appreciate your
That's
comments, but when the vote of the people came about having the mayor 2 years and directly elected, would that then be in conflict with what the voters decided and what's on the books currently? Do we have the obligation do we have the right here to change that, i.e. like height limits? Which we had to go to the vote of the people.
Height limits, term limit, terms. It's a tough comparison. Yeah. So actually, that's a good question, and I don't actually feel comfortable answering that tonight. I think we do need to research what the council can do with respect to the separately elected mayor. I believe it would end up that you could decide to have the mayoral term either reduced or extended, but I would want to confirm that before giving a definitive answer.
Okay, so we have a consensus on the council that we will have an election, one way or the other, in 2017. And you're going to confirm what we can and can't do with the terms?
Well, we know that for council members, the council can decide
Right.
whether those are 3 or 5 year terms. And so I'd request some direction tonight on that so we know what to bring back. And then I'll look into the question of the mayor and bring that back to you at the same time.
Okay. I believe the council, the majority of the council elected 3-year terms. Is that correct?
Yeah, and let me just ask you, based on your answer on the mayor, can you bring forward a resolution with the 3 years, and can council still
course.
modify the resolution at that time to make it 5 if they felt, because of your response back on the mayor's term?
Yes,
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have enough direction?
I believe so for the moment. But
Okay.
probably tomorrow I'll think of something that we didn't talk about.
You
And
know how to get a hold of us.
We'll bring it back to you as best as we can.
Okay. Item C, we're going to move right on to item D. You need any other information?
No, we're not introducing.
Okay, we're good. Item D is adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Zyger Engineers, Inc. for design of the Mills Park Regulated Output Replacement Project in an amount not to exceed $43,934 from the General Fund Capital Reserve.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Topic in front of you tonight is regards to the streetlight improvements on a regulated output, otherwise known as RO. The streetlights connected to the RO circuits are a series of lights that share a single power source, similar to holiday lights. So if there's any issue or problems with the streetlights or wires at any location within an electrical circuit, it can cause an outage in other areas. So as you can see on the slide here, the city has a total of 8 RO circuits in our city, and that total is approximately 356 streetlights. So a couple of years ago, the city experienced an RO outage in the Crestmore neighborhood, which affected 57 streetlights. That RO circuit was improved by removing and replacing existing electrical wires within the conduit, which was the most expedient repair to get the streetlights up and running again. The city experienced a second RO streetlight outage in September of last year on another that affected the Mills Park neighborhood. A total of 50 streetlights are connected to that Mills Park RO, and this slide shows the locations of where all the streetlights are affected in those streets here. So you have like Sycamore, Cypress, and Williams. I don't want to go into too much detail about all the locations, but so once we knew about the outage, staff began investigating the cause of the power failures. Several potholes were excavated along Park Avenue to determine the condition of the existing underground wires. Staff noticed that the underground wires were directly buried, unlike what we experienced in the Crestmore neighborhood, which were installed within the conduit. Some of the insulation on the wires have burned off, leaving only the conductor exposed. So here's just some of the pictures that we notice here. You can see in the red over area, there's just conduit, or just an underground wire just directly buried. Just another one there. And there's another one there. So the city coordinated with PG&E to successfully split the RO circuits to allow to have 2 different segments. So we allowed 26 lights to be able to turn on and keep functioning. This slide, as you can see, that area of Cedar, Hawthorne, Peachwood, and Pepper, all of them are currently on. Similar to the Crestmore RO outage, the city also requested assistance from residents that have streetlights adjacent to their property to provide temporary power. Currently, out of the 24 streetlights in this area that we currently don't have power, 14 of the residents are providing temporary power. That is, they're connecting the streetlights into their electrical socket in front of their house or in the garage. And 7 solar lights are also installed within this area. And staff also evaluated a permanent solution to fix this. And since the Mills Park RO underground wires were directly buried and not installed in conduits, and staff is recommending to install new conduit and wires and convert the RO circuit from series to parallel at the same time. And staff began working with PG&E to evaluate whether they can provide power to the new service locations to support this parallel circuit. And in December, last month, PG&E informed the city that they can provide new power services. So the city issued a request for proposal for design of this Mills Park RO parallel circuit back in November, and received one proposal from Zyger Engineers in the amount of $44,000. And although staff reached out to other electrical engineering firms, posted the RFP on the city's website, only Zyger Engineers submitted the proposal. And staff discussed the project and scope of work with the firm, and they demonstrated that they have the knowledge and qualification and experience to perform the work. They completed similar projects for the city of Burlingame, St. Carlos, and Redwood City. And the scope of work includes designing the replacement of this Mills Park that's 24 RO circuit, and developing specifications for bidding and providing support during bidding and construction process. So design will include the replacement of these also 11 streetlight poles, which were found to be defective during the RO assessment process. For the project schedule, staff estimates that it will take approximately 3 months to complete the design scope of work, and another 3 months to go out to bid and contract award. And construction will take approximately another 3 to 4 months. And for the fiscal impact, there's really no allocation for this project adopted in the 2016 to 21 CIP project, and we're requesting the $44,000 from the general fund capital reserve fund for this project. So this concludes my presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for staff at this time, or action by the council? Marty?
I think this is great. I'm in favor of this. I just wanted to ask about the solar lights, of how well they're working, and do you think we'll be able to take those light heads and be able to place them in other areas where it's dark across our city?
Yeah, they've been working really well, but due to the weather and the rain, they haven't been operating as we liked it. But hopefully they'll be recharged during this week and functioning as intended. But yes, once this location, once we have the circuits replaced, the solar lights are available to be used somewhere else.
Thank you.
Anything else for action by the council?
I'm prepared to take action, but I just want to thank staff. I mean, you really had to scramble in the last 18 months on this stuff, and I think uncovering some of these wires, I think we've been very fortunate, very lucky over the years that it hasn't happened sooner. And it's streetlights. We need those streetlights, and the families residents need to feel safe. So, thank you for that. And anything else? Okay, I'll introduce the resolution.
Vice Mayor Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Marty Medina. Aye. Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item 11, report of commissions, boards, and committees. There aren't any this evening. Item 12, comments from council members. Anyone have anything? Marty?
First, there's a pancake breakfast at the San Bruno Legion. I'm sorry, San Bruno American Legion. Sorry. This Saturday, it's a great event. It starts at 8:30. It goes to like 11. They have these cool little raffles there, and it's a great way to support our Legion. So I urge everybody to go out there. It's all you can eat. It's $10 for adults, and it's $5 for kids. And the other thing I'm going to be asking, and this is odd, but I want to work on the parking problems in our city. And I saw that we put together a subcommittee to deal with the trash and debris, and they were successful in getting some coordination and some progress there. So I'm asking my colleagues to set a subcommittee to tackle that bear of a problem with parking, and I would like to be on it. So I'm asking how we can do that. We need to put that on the agenda for our next meeting, but that's what I want to do, and I think it's time to take some action.
Okay. Parking is on the next agenda. Okay.
Through the chair.
Anything else? Ken?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind everyone about Relay for Life. I am the co-event chair, been event chair for the last few years, and we've all been touched by cancer. And I am so proud of this community that in 7 years we've we've run a Relay for Life, and we've raised over $300,000 on our own. And now we have taken 2 communities under our wing, South San Francisco and Daly City. Relay for Life will now be at City Park. So it'll be in front of the entire community, hopefully, with city approvals pending. But we're really trying to make this a feel-good event, something where we can come and honor survivors, get more awareness in the communities, collaborate with our neighbors, and really be able to, hopefully, in our children's lifetime, raise enough money to, to eliminate cancer. And San Bruno has taken great strides in the last few years, and I'm proud of it. So come out and join us in a kickoff party. It's going to be in South San Francisco because we want to spread the publicity. It'll be at the San Francisco Wine School, right across from City Hall on Grand Avenue. And there's actually going to be wine for sale. So it's not just punch and cookies. So there'll be wine there, and it's actually a very, very good venue for this. And I've invited the elected officials of all 3 communities, and I'm going to be very anxious to see how many of our elected officials do show up, just for about an hour. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Anything else? All right, closed session, we had it already before the meeting. Adjournment, next regular council meeting, February 14th, right here.